So this is number one and only for the album. This is the prototype of the NOF Super Typhoon. Kind of a best of my design, and with a lot, and I do mean a lot, of Onofre's input. This was spawned from kind of a series of sketches I made that try to incorporate a lot of the cuts and the ergo features I liked out of contemporary designs. This is just like a lot of my amplifier and gear selection, definitely a Meshuggah fanboy's wet dream. We got the hip shot locking tuners, which are almost completely unnecessary once you clamp down on the Floyd Rose nut here, which is then complemented by a custom 8-string ABM bridge, which is made to the same specifications as Friedrich's and Martin's guitar. So then we also have the venerable Lundgren M8s, by far my favorite sounding passive pickup scheme so far. Probably for the entirety of this album, I'll be sticking to the bridge pickup. I do have some push-pull pots that will do coil splitting, some really great sounds, but you know, for the brutals, it's all about the bridge pickup most of the time. 28-inch scale length, too much wood variety to go over. I can't even remember all of it. There's some swamp ash on the back, some David 2 in the middle. I got the maple poplar burl there. Some really, really slick lace wood that's stained. This is not the natural finish. Looks great though. And got like a maple walnut and something else on the back that I can't remember off the top of my head. It also has a really, really cool party trick. Glow in the dark. No batteries. Luminlay. First guitar I've had with Luminlay. It's pretty sweet. I gotta charge it up. Completely unnecessary for what I'm doing here in the studio, but you know, why not? And for the picks on the album, I'm using the Primetone 88s, the sculpted version. I'm finding these are gelling pretty well, both in terms of playability and the tone. I might change it up for the leads, but probably not. I like something that's on the thinner side of 1.0 millimeters, but still has a little bit of stiffness to it to, you know, really dig into the bottom strings. So this is my guitar tracking setup. It's fairly straightforward, though it might look a little more complicated than it actually is. I've got Cubase on the main monitor. I've got my cheater tabs on my spare, and I'm using the Kemper profiler as a means of monitoring. Now, I'm not actually recording with the Kemper per se. The processed guitar signal you'll hear on the album will be using real tube amplifiers. I'm recording just the DI, so all of that's going through my Scarlett 6i6 interface, just you know, plain Jane, good transparent preamps, but nothing special. It's what you hear with basically all my VST plugin videos and for a lot of the stuff that I reamp. In essence, I'm sending an analog carbon copy of the signal coming into the Kemper profiler, and that is going out to my audio interface. You can see that with this cable here. And then what you're hearing for the process signal is the SPDIF. So I'm monitoring with that, recording with that. So as a lot of you guitar players are already going to know, it's pretty important to have a sound that is close to the final product if you do plan on reamping later, because at least for me, it very much dictates the way that, you know, I attack the strings or the way I sustain or execute a vibrato. So I need something that sounds pretty close, but just gives me the flexibility of changing stuff later. And that's what I think the Kemper profiler excels at, because basically for the rhythms, I'll do the same thing for the leads when I make a profile for those. I've got a profile of the main amplifier I'm using, and I've stuck the Kemper drive in front and kind of made a modification of one of the Precision Drive presets. Found a cabinet sound I liked, made some modifications, You know, I got options for EQ and kind of a stereo widener if I wanted, some reverb. And ta-da, there's a pretty close to produced guitar sound I can monitor with. So with everything plugged in, this is the sound, or at least one of the sounds I can hear while tracking. Completely ruined the ending there, but you get the idea. What's interesting though is even though you're hearing this, chug-tastic processed guitar signal, all we're recording is this. And that, of course, sounds like absolute dog shit on its own, but that's to be expected with DIs. That's the way it's supposed to be. The problem this presents, though, is I want to be able to listen to my performances and gauge whether or not I need to redo it, or if they're all sitting well together, if all the timings are correct. And it's kind of hard to do that with just a DI signal. So I'm going to use plugins after the fact to listen back to the full quad-tracked performance. And of course, I got my standbys like the Fortin Nameless. I've got some Vadim Tarnoff stuff I'm messing with right now. The Mega Fuzzy, I'll probably bounce them in and out before I actually reamp the guitar tracks. But what this allows me to do is approximate a finished sound without having to record a second set of tracks. I could very well record a process signal from the Kemper, but that means I have double the editing and double the amount of tracks I got to deal with, and that gets into a whole can of worms that I really don't want to dive into. So I'm really digging this workflow so far, using the Live Amp Modeler as my monitoring rig, and then using plugins for an in-process mix and performance check. And then, finally, when everything's done, I can put them through real tube amps, and I won't have to, worry about putting excessive hours on those. Lead guitar pedal board. Now, I reamped all this stuff in a hurry to this guy at these approximate settings. But I say approximate because I don't actually know. I didn't take pictures like a dumbass. What I can say is that I did not use this pedal. I did not use that pedal. I don't think I used that one. Most certainly used that one. Most certainly used that one. And more or less these settings, unless they've been slightly bumped by the dog. We also have 4 presets I made for the collider, the delay and reverb, going between tape analog, got some digital reverse going on there, digital and shimmer reverb there, and tape and plate there. You can very much hear in the background of the solos which one's which. I dialed up the mix pretty heavily on a couple of these presets for that little weird intro thing, but otherwise it's pretty much what I stuck to throughout the whole album. The Boss MD500 handled all the modulation stuff using 2 presets here with the 98 bank and 99. And most of the time I only had one or the other effect on, but there was a couple points where I had both. We got a weird little ring mod thing going on here, which I don't really know how to recreate in any other device, but I guess I'll try it one day. We got a flanger there, and then on bank 99, a slicer for that weird thing in a couple of the solos where you can hear it kind of stutter. Really like that effect. And then we got the chorus for just some more CE1 style chorus. Bass stuff, using guitar stuff, and bass stuff. Got a 3-way tri-amp set up. I'm going to try out on the bass guitar this time, using the valve state for the really high end, that scratchy, brittle, kind of 90s affair. Using the Dark Glass Alpha Omega for the mids, hence why I have the low end pretty much completely chopped off. A little bit of blend between both distortion engines, a little bit of clean in there, but mostly just driven to snot. And then, it's nice and dark so you can hardly see it, the SansAmp VT, which is essentially an Ampeg SVT, or the I think the little flat top 15 watt thing that you can get nowadays is on that character switch, but I got it pretty much all the way on the SVT. And this is more or less clean, a little bit driven just for some fatness on the low end. And I've got all those split up in various frequency ranges going to different cabinet impulse responses in the DAW, so they'll all have their own range of frequencies to sit in. I opted for a good old-fashioned American Spectre on this one. Just a little bit different from the Wolf that I used on Cedarum. Very well may return to that at some point for the future stuff, but just wanted a little snappiness, something that I associate with this kind of bass guitar. I've got the low end going exclusively to that, and then the high end rolled up and sent to these guys. Shooting some cab IRs that I may or may not use for the final mix. We'll see. I just feel like if Paris is going to go through all the trouble of using a real mic'd up drum kit, then I might as well at least try. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the quality that you can only expect from Lakeside Studios. A pedal board whose power is being siphoned to power an outboard pedal, simultaneously used as a desktop microphone stand support to then lean in at a less than 45-degree angle to get a mic'd up speaker sound with cables running rampant, including that of a detached desktop fan.